It's really good to be here. Meet Alice. Almost 2 years ago to the day, Alice went into labor at Kabgayi Hospital in Rwanda. Within minutes, her doctors knew she needed an emergency transfusion of blood to survive. So they checked their stock on hand at the hospital, but found they did not have enough blood of her type in stock. So they placed an emergency order. And even though this hospital is in a remote location, only accessible by dirt roads, the blood Alice needed arrived within 30 minutes. And using that blood, Alice's doctors were able to stabilize her. And later she went home with her beautiful baby boy. The blood Alice needed, the blood that was arrived in time to save her life, was delivered by a small autonomous aircraft we call a Zip. Recently, Alice visited us and had this to say.
I used to see the zipline drone fly and people gathering around to watch. I would find it funny and think to myself, they must be mad, until the same drone brought blood that saved my life.
Zipline is the story of a passionate group of Rwandans and Californians who, working together with the government of Rwanda, created the world's first and still only national-scale drone delivery system. The story began when we took some of the best advice that I've ever gotten, some of the best advice I've ever gotten and actually followed, which was to get out in the world. We spent a bunch of time in Central America and Africa getting to know people. And we heard this recurring theme that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. That people's health care, their child's health care, their parents' health care, their neighbor's health care was just getting stopped by this really unsexy problem. Delivery, logistics. Doctors share with us their torment at losing patients. They knew how to save. They knew the treatments. They just didn't have the supplies. Now, there are a bunch of factors that all combine to make this a really big problem. We asked doctors to basically guesstimate their supply needs months ahead of time, and then deal with medical emergencies you couldn't have predicted even an hour ahead of time. Of course, while traveling, we got the firsthand experience of what it's like to be a delivery driver on these roads, right? Miles of dirt roads turn to miles of mud during the long rainy seasons. And of course, we're delivering things like vaccines and blood that require refrigeration to parts of the world that just don't have reliable electricity. This is the point in the story where the government of Rwanda comes in. They took a huge chance on us. They started working with us before we even had a working prototype. And our California team and our Rwanda team worked with the government of Rwanda throughout the design process, counting on their data and their feedback for each critical design decision. Let me give you a few examples. When we started, we were very proud to have designed a Zip that could deliver anywhere in a 20-kilometer service radius. And then we got data on where the paved roads ended. We have to be on a paved road so we get reliable supply, relative to the locations of all the hospitals and clinics we needed to serve. And it became obvious. Our 20-kilometer service radius we were very proud of was useless. So we redesigned our system for an 80-kilometer service radius. One of our early package designs basically looked like a sleeping bag in a stuff sack, right? Picture the medical supplies in the middle, padding around. But it fell so fast and hit the ground with such a thwack, people just jumped in surprise. I can still picture one doctor we were testing with. We were hucking these prototypes over his clinic, and he didn't have to say anything. We just knew from his face we had to go redesign how our packages were delivered to the ground. One last example. When we started, we thought we didn't have to deliver during the storm if we could deliver just before or just after. But it was the doctors we were working with who made it clear from their experience and their data that medical emergencies just did not wait for the weather to clear. And these are just a few of the many design details that we only got right because our customers were pushing us there. The government of Rwanda and the doctors we were working with and the logistics providers, they're all part of the government of Rwanda partner. They were pushing us there. We were in the real world, and real doctors do not have time to goof around with technology. Either help them or slow them down. And of course, we wanted to help them. Once we had our first system on the ground in Rwanda, it still took us months to work through those final design details. And it took our California team and our Rwandan team working together around the clock, but eventually things started to click and the system started working. And right now, I'd like to take all of you to see what this looks like. Fast forward a few years to see what this looks like operating in Rwanda today. So who wants to go to Rwanda? All right, so we're about to go to Muhanga, Rwanda. What you're about to see is not a demo. This is a behind-the-scenes tour of a live zipline distribution center during live operations. And, all right, I'm getting all the thumbs up I need, so it looks like we are good to go. So can you take us to Rwanda? This is Alice. So I'm going to narrate while she gives the tour. I don't think she knows you can't hear her. So we're standing in what we call the crow's nest of the distribution center. And here you can see our recovery system is this big A-frame. You'll hopefully see that in action in a few minutes. On the left is our fulfillment operations building, where she's pointing right now. and she'd be telling you right now how many planes they have in the air, which I don't know, and how many flights they've done today. Hopefully we'll get that information if the audio comes through. So what you're seeing here is, these are the tools. So we have a role in our air traffic control tower we call the controller. So this controller has live radio communications to Kigali Air Traffic Control and sees all of Zipline's operations on this screen. So what you're seeing there is what we call our sky map. So these routes go from essentially the southern border of Rwanda to the northern border of Rwanda. This is the entire western half of the country. Every single one of these on the right is a flight that's in the air right now in Rwanda making deliveries.
The zip is coming in a few minutes. It's about to land.
Diane, that's Diane.
Yeah, so the poles that you see over there have a line in between. The poles are motors. The motors are computer controlled to snap up really quickly when recovering. And there you go. At the same time, we are actually about to launch another. As you can see, the distribution center today is quite busy. So, this is the operation area. Right now, we have two remove the zips on the recovery system. So the zip was built. The zip was built through a line replaceable module, which allows us to be able to replace them at any time in case there's a problem, and allows us to continue the operation.
So they can recover a zip like that as often as once per minute.
So right now we're about to launch that zip. So all the physical checks have been done and the control checks have been done.
You won't be able to hear her over the propellers. They're quite loud, but even though...
There you go. This is flying autonomously after the hospital, delivering the medical products that they've requested. Now let's go to our warehouse to see how process orders from the hospital.
So that zip she was just explaining is now flies completely automatically out to the hospital where it'll drop the package, turn around, come back, and get the next order. As you saw at the beginning, right now it looks like they have about 8 zips in the air making deliveries. Go ahead, Diane, if you can hear me.
Yes. So where we are right now, in the warehouse where we products received from the biomedical center, the distribution center, enabling immediate to even the most sensitive or fresh items. But before I give you a tour of the warehouse, let me introduce you to the team that makes sure that the hospitals and the doctors that we work with are always satisfied. This is Bernardin on my left and Mihai at the far end. Right now, she's processing an order, so let's see how she does it. She has already put it in the system, and now she's putting it into the packaging. This process takes about 2 minutes from the time when we receive the order from the hospital personnel. Over here you have the medical equipment that we currently use to store vital medical products. Right here you have one of the fridges that serves to store all the blood products. Next to it, you have the incubator that currently conserving platelets. Next to it, you have red blood cell. And in this freezer right here, you have fresh frozen plasma and cryoprecipitate. Now let's go outside and see how flight operators will be processing the order received from the fulfillment operators. Fulfillment operators, again, to give you a quick background, are the people that communicate with the hospital and make sure to inform them at all the stages of the process. So now that a flight operator has received the package, he will then process to a zip, where he's going to be putting the package in the body of the zip. But before he does that, he's going to be scanning the QR codes on the zip and on the body to ensure that he assigns it to the zip. That's
how that zip now knows where to go.
Each package has a parachute that helps it land gently to the place where it was destined to put the package, to the delivery site. Right now, he's taking it to the launcher. So once he loads the zip on the launcher, another flight operator will insert the wing. And another flight operator will bring the battery and insert it. Once the zip is fully assembled, 2 flight operators will conduct physical checks to ensure that there's no cracks or minor damages on the zip. After that, another flight operator will go on and start doing controlled surface check, which is basically scanning all the barcodes on the zip to ensure that all the moving parts are working perfectly. So now that they're doing that process,
so for any geeks in the audience, what you're seeing right there is an iPhone getting used with computer vision to automatically move those control surfaces.
At the same time, the controller sitting in the controller where we were is asking for clearance from the airport traffic controller in the capital airport in Kigali. So as we wait for clearance from them, let's go see where the battery is charged.
Each one of those is a smart charging bay.
So the batteries are currently charging in the smart charger. The reason why we call it a smart charger is because flight logs are stored in the battery and automatically uploaded when the battery is placed in the smart charger. They also operate more efficiently as they have a light that you can see over here that tracks basically when the battery is charged. They also were built with sensors to track the health of the battery. So now that the flight operator is communicating with the controller to receive clearance, he will also be checking the area to ensure that there's no obstacle in the flight path of the zip and ensure that the zip will be able to be launched safely. So the controller just notified the flight operator that the airspace is clear and he's ready to launch the zip. Now the zip is flying autonomously up to the delivery site. And at the same time, fulfillment operators will also be communicating with the hospital, letting them know of the estimated time of arrival for the zip. And when the zip will be 5 minutes away, they will notify them that the zip is at the delivery site, and the zip will descend 10 to 15 meters above ground and gently drop the package. And that's it from Kigali. Thank you.
So I want to invite you all. It's not very often that we have 1,500 amazing people in Rwanda with us. So I want to take this opportunity to ask you all to help me congratulate this team. They just delivered their 10,000th delivery of blood. Congratulations. So, welcome back to Cape Town. We brought a little something with us from Rwanda so you could see a zip here in person. They're going to bring that out in a second. So, I will, oh, here it comes. So, in case you thought it was really small, it's not so small. So, Zipline is an on-demand delivery service. We deliver blood, vaccines, and other medical supplies. And we do this flying over the mountains and the valleys, the rivers, through stormy conditions, and over traffic gridlock. The team you just met in Rwanda currently flies the equivalent of once around the equator of the week, making deliveries just like you just saw. Now, there are a bunch of other, well, quite frankly, geeky operational statistics that, well, you might find a little boring, like this one, or this one. But what I really want to talk with you about is how this team you just met has achieved things for the public health system of Rwanda that have never been achieved by any health system in the world. To understand that, we first have to understand blood. So, blood is, of course, precious. It's logistically complicated, and it's a lot more expensive than you think. Some blood products, like platelets, have only a 7-day shelf life from the time of donation till expiration. So that's 7 days. Transport it to the labs, test it, type it, and then ship it back to all the hospitals that need it, and then use it all within 7 days, or it expires because it's unsafe and you have to discard it. On top of that, of course, there's many different types of blood, some of which are very rare. So there's one key metric that all public health systems track, and that's basically how much of their blood expires on the shelf. Now, Western countries work very hard and spend a lot of money to achieve waste rates in the single digits. Hopefully it's obvious why it's a little easier to do this in cities versus in remote areas. This team you just met in Rwanda, of the 17,000 units of blood that they've delivered, they have achieved a waste rate of 0.06%. Now, hopefully it's fairly obvious how there's a lot of blood in Western countries not getting to patients who need it, where almost all the blood gets to patients who need it. And by the way, 0.6%, for those of you who aren't doing the math quickly, that's 10 units out of 17,000. But to make this more concrete, let's talk about health impacts. Let's talk about maternal mortality. Maternal mortality is, of course, the tragedy of a mother who dies from complications due to childbirth. In a recent study that covered 2 of the hospitals that we've been serving in Rwanda, in the 7-month window of the study, they achieved a maternal mortality rate of 0. 0 mothers had died in these 2 hospitals, and these are some of those mothers with their children. So this is the largest drone delivery network in the world. And again, for those of you a little on the geekier side like myself, this is the largest autonomous delivery network of any kind, drone or otherwise, in the world. Rwanda is literally teaching the world how to use this technology. And they're teaching the world how to use this technology to save lives. Now, what does this all mean? Well, to a geek like me, this means Wakanda is Wakanda is happening. Now, for those of you who haven't read the comic books, maybe you've seen the movie Black Panther. Wakanda is this secret, hidden city-state in Africa that secretly leads the world technologically and with technology for healthcare. And of course, this team you just met in Rwanda, of course, isn't leading the world because they're superheroes who drink purple potions or have access to mythical minerals. They're leading the world because they're truly amazing design and technology leaders. Bill Gates has been talking a lot about this forecast for Africa. That, given what I see at Zipline every day, gives me great excitement for the future of our species. And that forecast is that here in sub-Saharan Africa, the population of youth will equal the population of youth of the rest of the world combined this century. And of course, Zipline is just one example of how this youth is already using design and technology to solve vital problems so well that they are leading the world. The future is bright. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Yeah.